Welcome, and I'm Annie Burke. I'm the Executive Director of Together Bay Area, and really happy to be here. Thank you for making the time and um, for your curiosity about what this organization, this coalition is all about. I'm really glad that you're all here. I want to start with some acknowledgements. Like, let's pretend, as Laura said, that we're in a physical space. We're kind of in like the front entryway. So I just want to say some things before we go on this tour. One is that you're all welcome here. We're really glad that each and every one of you is here. Some of you know something, you've been to an event, you've been to some part of Together Bay Area. Some are brand new to the, what is this thing? And I don't know anything about it. There on the screen here are some folks who have been involved for a long time. Some of you may have just started your job, or you've been in your job a long time. Some of you are at different levels of your career, and all of you are welcome regardless of all those dimensions and many others. Also want to acknowledge that we're on Native lands, all of us today, and you're going to hear more about the work that Together Bay Area is doing for right relations and for tribal alliances. So I want to do that acknowledgement, but more so I want to tell you, and we want to tell you about the work that we're doing to go beyond land acknowledgements. What we're going to do today, my hope is that you'll get a clear sense of who Together Bay Area is and what we're working on and how you can get involved. We're going to provide an overview of Together Bay Area and share a little bit about our strategic priorities, as well as some of how our members are participating in the work for those priorities. So we have a bunch of different speakers here today that are going to share their experiences and their perspectives. There isn't just one way of participating in Together Bay Area. There's not one narrow mold. There's lots of different ways, and we really want to show you a bunch of different ones today. If you have questions along the way, along this tour, please put them in the chat. We'll have Q&A time at the end, and we'll pull those questions from the chat. Together Bay Area, here we are, a regional coalition of 70 plus member organizations, and we're working for climate resilience and equity. Where our members are on the ground implementers in the 10 counties of the Bay Area. So that's the 9 that actually touch the Bay, plus Santa Cruz County. And there's reasons for why Santa Cruz is included. And we'll hear a little bit about that today also. If you want to go to the next slide, please. And our members are on the ground implementers with programs and projects that are making a real impact on the land and in their communities. So our members work on urban lands, rural lands, natural lands, working lands, and the communities that interact with those places. So lots of different kinds of organizations, from nonprofits, public agencies, tribes, tribal groups, as well as mission-aligned businesses, from small nonprofits to very large entities, agencies, and nonprofits. Some have like 2 staff, some have 1,000 staff. There's a lot of difference in who our members are, and they all come together to work for our shared goals, which I'll talk about in a second. I want to introduce our team. It's a total pleasure to work with these people. We do a lot of serious work, and we also have a lot of fun. So I'm really, I could talk about these people for a long time. Our core team is Laura Rosenthal, who you've gotten emails from and welcomed us in. She's our membership and communications coordinator, and she's doing a lot to help our members feel more connected, and just thrilled that she's a part of this team. Tom Robinson is here, and he's going to talk about our conservation work. And he's been a part of this organization for a long time in various different roles. Also, Jessica Little is on our core team. She's not here today. She's out of town, and we let her off the hook. She leads our policy and advocacy work, and I'm really happy that Lisa Baldinger is here to step in for her and carry that baton forward. Also want to say that we're in the process of recruiting for a convening coordinator, so somebody new to join our team. So hope the next time we do this, we'll have another person on our team. We also have a fantastic board of directors. Lisa Bollinger is on our board, and she's here. And I know a few other board members are planning to come. The board is a great group of committed leaders from around the region who are really interested in making sure that this organization stays healthy and strong. And this picture is from a retreat we held in August to work on just that. And one of the piece that we did was create a 5-year strategic direction. I don't know about you, but the world has shown me over the past few years that a 5-year plan is probably not worth the paper it's printed on, because it'll all change. But what we can do is identify the North Stars that we want to work towards. So we identified 5. The 5th one is a healthy organization. We're not going to go into that today, but if you're curious about if you want to get organizational development geeky with me, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But we're going to go through these 5 priorities. And again, these priorities really set the North Stars for us as a coalition. It's really, what do we want to accomplish together? And one of the ways we framed it is, what do we want to celebrate as a coalition at the 2028 conference? It's a bunch of years away, but it's a real question of like, what do we want to say that we did? So we collected a lot of input and information from our members to set these priorities. Then we've also developed 5-year objectives to help us as a coalition move towards reaching these. We're going to talk through these 4 today, and we've kind of organized this open house by priority. So each room of this virtual house is the home of a priority. Some of our members and partners have joined us here today to share their experience. So want to thank Olivia Van Dam, Taylor Pennywell, Olivia White-Lopez, Lisa Baldinger, and Eric Lombardo, who are all here and who are all going to talk in a few minutes about their participation in these different rooms of the Together Bay Area House. So the first room we're going to move into is the Regional Coordination Room. At the center of Together Bay Area is the idea that relationships matter, that healthy relationships are what fuel resilience. They can help transform how we live together. They're essential for when there's opportunities to rise up to. They're essential for when challenges face us. And that building relationships and a strong social network of practitioners and professionals around the region can have a huge impact in how we respond to challenges and opportunities. Think about who do you call when something's wrong or when something's really exciting. That's what we're working for in the regional coordination. And there's lots of ways of getting involved in this priority. And to talk about that, hand the mic back over to Laura.
Sandy. So regional coordination is something you'll see throughout our priorities, but in particular, we have group types of convenings. Throughout the year, we get together for field trips hosted by our members. And field trips are a great opportunity not only to show a model of something that you're excited to share with the region, but also for learning and problem solving. We've had even just this year members come to us and say, we have kind of a tricky situation on this land. Can we get a team out here to look at it and talk through it together? And it was a really great opportunity for collaboration and brainstorming. So if you're a member and you want to host a field trip because you want help, it's a great opportunity to have some amazing minds group think with you. Our spring conference is our biggest convening of the year. We have about 400 to 500 people come together from all different roles and different parts of the climate and social equity world, from the executive directors to people who are working on the land, and talking about some of the most urgent ways we can collaborate in this moment. So this upcoming year, 2024, our spring conference will be at the Fort Mason Center, which is a new home for us. So we're really excited. That'll be on May 8th. And then we'll have field trips associated with the conference too. So that'll be a chance to get out and meet each other and see what everybody's up to. And then we have online opportunities throughout the year too. We this fall have been hosting our Together Tuesday series, which is a showcase of member programs and projects around different topics. We've been talking about biodiversity conservation and equitable access to the outdoors. And coming up in November, we'll be talking about climate resilient lands and waters, and we'll hear from our members how they're addressing those issues. We have webinars throughout the year on different topics, from mapping tools to our Connecting Urban Biodiversity project, which we'll hear about in a little bit. So we are always striving to bring people together to build those relationships and work towards climate resilience together.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. The next room of this open house tour is the Regional Habitat Goals room. I'm imagining that in this room there are lots of pictures of monarch butterflies and wildlife, and there's lots of maps probably in this room. And
plenty of maps.
Lots of maps. To give you a tour of this room, happy to introduce Tom Robinson to talk about the work that we're doing as a region there.
Thank you, Annie. Yes, I want to tell you all about work that Together Bay Area does to help coordinate habitat conservation and landscape resilience here in the Bay Area, which currently takes place through 3 initiatives, so sort of 3 bubbles that you just saw: Connecting Urban Biodiversity, the Regional Wildfire Data Working Group, and the Conservation Lands Network. But I want to start with the Conservation Lands Network. It's sort of a marquee project of Together Bay Area. And then I'm excited to have my friend and colleague with us, Olivia Van Dam, to tell all of us a little bit more about her experience, pardon me, working on the Connecting Urban Biodiversity project. But let's start with the Conservation Lands Network. So as all or most of you know, the Bay Area is one of California's growing urban areas. It's an urban and urbanizing region, we like to say. It's sort of not done yet. It's not done growing. It also happens to be a global hotspot for natural richness because of where the Bay Area is situated at the edge of 2 major floristic regions or biomes. There's sort of an explosion of plant and animal richness here. And back in the early 2000s, many folks working toward sort of keeping the Bay Area's ecosystem functioning despite urban sprawl and the proliferation of non-native invasive plants and animals, these folks realized that their efforts to be successful in that endeavor would be improved if they were all working toward the same goal. And they, along with over 150 area experts and practitioners, created the Conservation Lands Network, which is based on a set of geography-specific habitat goals for biodiversity. And over the past 15 years, the CLN, as we call it, has become a vehicle for regional coordination of habitat conservation. And its set of maps and online tools are used by local practitioners and funders to support reaching those geography-specific habitat goals, as well as a region-wide goal of conserving 50% of lands and waters by 2050, something that the region can absolutely achieve if we work together. The CLN, I want to mention, is that it's part of a trio of habitat conservation strategies here in the Bay Area. So it sits next to these 2 other strategies that cover other sections of the Bay Area's ecosystem. So one is the Bay Area Subtidal Ecosystem Habitat Goals project. The other is the Baylands Ecosystem Habitat Goals project. And so in this way, the CLN can be thought of as their upland counterpart. And agencies such as the California Coastal Conservancy use this trio of strategies to interpret and organize their funding priorities. And you can learn more about the CLN, and you can inspect the goals and priorities and even run some custom reports about the biodiversity and conservation benefits of an area of your choosing at bayarealands.org. And if you only have a few minutes, I would recommend checking out the map gallery there to get a sense of the types of information available. And if you love to self-educate as I do, check out the reports section and download the CLN 2.0 report. It's our most recently published report. And I think it's one of the most comprehensive assessments of Bay Area ecosystem richness, threats, and conservation strategies that exists. And it's a culmination of hundreds of hours of work by dozens of experts. Now, as we all know, the landscape is ever changing from a natural standpoint, from a human perspective. Habitats shift, land is developed, vegetation burns, it dries out, it erodes. And it's important to refresh our data and our goals. And so there have been 2 major iterations of the CLN so far, and we're gearing up for a third. And we call that the CLN 3.0 project. And the CLN 3.0 project will do 3 major things. First, it'll update the habitat goals collaboratively with area experts and practitioners, using some new fine-scale vegetation data that is sort of being created around the Bay Area as we speak. Second is that it's going to explore new techniques to assess and track land stewardship and other factors affecting the resilience of the landscape, including factors around climate change, wildfire, and the role of urban areas in the region's biodiversity health. And the third thing is that it's going to include even more people, more diverse voices and perspectives, including tribal perspectives. We're really excited about that. Now, one foray into sort of new territory for the CLN is the Connecting Urban Biodiversity Project. And this project seeks to illustrate a positive cycle of action that can result in better living conditions for people and native species alike. And our goal is to demonstrate how people living in disadvantaged communities can contribute to the body of data that feeds into the conservation science and modeling of the CLN, which then in turn feeds into decision-making at cities and agencies responsible for the state and condition of urban green spaces and urban forests. We're really excited about this project. And one of our key collaborators is on this Zoom with us, and in this room with us, Olivia Van Dam from the California Academy of Sciences. So Olivia, can I ask you to sort of take center stage here and describe your experience working on what we call the CUB project, that's the Connecting Urban Biodiversities.
Sure, great. I'm Olivia Van Dam. My pronouns are she, her. I'm calling from Ramaytush Ohlone land. I work at the California Academy of Sciences, and I work in the Center for Biodiversity and Community Science alongside my colleagues, Rebecca Johnson, Allison Young, Avery Hill, who also all participated and worked on this project and have had leadership with CLN for several years. And so it's just been a joy and an honor to work with my team and with the Together Bay Area team. And I'm also been involved in Together Bay Area through the spring conference and also in the Right Relations program as a part of the pilot group representing Cal Academy with that group. So it's just been really wonderful to experience Together Bay Area in many different ways and in several of the rooms that we're talking about today. But for the CUB project, my experience has been really one around collaboration, around shifting the norms of how we look at conservation land, especially urban areas. And I think in my training as a geographer in environmental science and in many spaces in traditional conservation, we've heard that, you know, this narrative that nature's over there, nature's these other protected lands, and that the city has no nature. And I've heard, even as of recently at a nature center outside of Sacramento, one of their staff tell me that, you know, oh, well, it's great we have this park here because the city has not much nature for folks to experience. And that just really struck me because as a someone who's living in San Francisco, I see nature all over my city. I experience nature every day. I was swimming in the ocean this morning, right outside of my house in the outer Sunset. I saw hummingbirds in my backyard. I think all of us can recall or think about all these amazing urban spaces that we consistently do see nature. And I'm really driven by a passion and a mission to change that narrative, and so is my team here at Cal Academy. Allison Young and our partners down at Natural History Museum of LA started a iNaturalist project called City Nature Challenge to raise awareness about this. And I think that's kind of what brought us to this project, was nature in cities, and that nature is everywhere. And we were able to have a really amazing partnership with Yes Nature to Neighborhoods, which it's in their name, right? Nature is in all of our neighborhoods and where we live, and they are an incredible organization in Richmond, California, in the East Bay. And our colleagues there, as we built and developed partnership, I really tapped into what it means for a Western science institution to begin some of these partnerships with CBOs, with these nonprofit groups who are in the communities, and specifically for Richmond, working with a lot of Black and Brown families who have, this incredible knowledge and desire and amazing legacy of caring for their environment in Richmond. And I think that that is another narrative that I've tried to work on as a Latina, as someone who's BIPOC in this space of nature conservation, environmental education, right? That our communities, Black and Brown, Latine, Indigenous, Asian communities care deeply about our environment. We care deeply about our neighborhoods, about our land as well. And that's not always been in the narrative for conservation. And we need to just acknowledge that. And I appreciate y'all sitting with that now. And so this partnership really brought together learning more about a tool that we can use to kind of use for science, and that is iNaturalist, right? It's a community science tool that my department uses a lot through these experiences called BioBlitzes, where we get a whole community group together and we come together and say, what is an area that you care about, and how can we look and observe and document the nature that you're seeing? And so iNaturalist, you take photos with your phone, you upload them, and then that data, sometimes, what's so cool about this project is that we are using that data. We are using community science data. For folks who use iNaturalist, you might have questions of, where does my data go? What gets, how does it get used, or is it getting used at all by agencies or local government or decision makers? And that's what's so cool about this project, is that the data, I have my coworker, Dr. Avery Hill, who's a data scientist, and he's using that community science data that is research grade and verified through the online community of naturalists and scientists and nature caretakers who are, adding their information and expertise. And then that data is informing the CLN, which Tom talked about at the beginning, and informing the maps and the local decision making process in the Bay Area. So I'm just really grateful. I think that was a bit of an overview and kind of how I've been involved in my appreciations and excitement around the many facets of collaboration and the ways that there's an entire pathway of involvement and data usage, and also sharing back that data with Yes Nature to Neighborhoods and involving them. We got to invite Denzel, who's one of their program directors, to speak with us at a conference. And the conference session that we had was called "Who is the Community in Community Science?" And we had 3 case studies with our partners at Natural History Museum of LA, and Cal Academy, and our community partners that were working on similar projects like this in California. And I just thought it was so amazing and different and shifting who is speaking at these types of academic conferences and bringing the CBOs into these spaces to share their experience about conservation planning.
Olivia, thank you so much for painting such a rich picture. The point about, sort of this cycle and actually like enriching the CLN's ability to play a role in decision making through community collected science and data is I share your enthusiasm about that. Currently, the CLN just sort of masks out all the urban areas. It considers it not part of the biodiversity sort of fabric of the Bay Area. And that's sort of an older paradigm. And we want to shift that with this project. And you described it so well. So thank you for helping us, obviously, with the project and describing it today. Before we leave this room and go to the next, there's two other projects or just two other sort of items I want to touch on. One of them is the Wildfire Data Working Group. This is a working group that you may all want to consider participating in, but it's a group of currently about 40 active folks who are typically in an organization. They are sort of situated in that role where they're looked to interpret information around wildfire, whether it's preparing for the next one, whether it's recovering from the last one. And we thought we need to get these folks together so that across the region, folks who have experienced wildfire and understand that data and information landscape can share with others. And so it's sort of this all boats rise with the tide idea. And we meet every 2 months. And as Annie said at the outset, that last Friday, Peninsula Open Space Trust hosted our first field trip out at San Vicente Redwoods, portions of which burned in the 2020 August complex fires. And we learned firsthand about burn severity, post-fire restoration, decision-making and design, and methods to reduce wildfire fuels and risk. So it's an active group. It's tons of learning. Please join us to learn alongside with us. Another way to get involved, kind of circling back to the CLN, is that we're really excited. We're going to be producing a progress report that will be published in 2024 that shows progress toward those geography-specific habitat goals. And it'll illuminate where maybe we've achieved some of the goals in certain areas, but it'll also illuminate areas where more attention is needed. For instance, I think we're still sitting at about sort of 7 to 10% of our goals for riparian areas. So these data will help us illuminate and those sort of gaps that we need to fill, so we can kind of link arms and make sure that all components of the Bay Area's ecosystem are adequately conserved and stewarded for what's to come in the future. So with that, I want to invite Annie back to take us to the next room.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you, Olivia. As promised, there were lots of maps and lots of cool events and data and iNaturalist, and that's great. So thank you so much for showing us that room. If you'll metaphorically follow me into the next room, we're going to move to another priority of ours, which is building tribal alliances. And I'm really honored to introduce two people who have been involved in that work. I want to set them up by saying that in 2020 and 2021, we heard a lot from our members about their questions and challenges with working and building partnerships with tribes. I should say the members who are not tribal were asking, like, how do I do this work? And really looking for guidance. And as you might guess, there's not an answer. There's not a magic pill you take and all of it gets cured. It's hundreds of years of colonization that lead us to this point. And there's a lot of work that we need to do to learn and unlearn, take action and build community. So we've formed a partnership with Redbud Resource Group to put together a program. And I'm really excited to bring Taylor on stage to talk about that role in that. And then Olivia White Lopez will talk about what it's been like to participate in that program. So first, Taylor, can you tell us about Right Relations and what it means and what it means to the tribal community?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for having me, Annie. So I'm the executive director of Redbud Resource Group, and we're a California Native-led nonprofit that's focused on increasing the visibility of Native American people in education and conservation and public health spaces. I'm also a tribal member. I'm Maidu from Berry Creek Rancheria, and we are focused in Coast Miwok lands up in Sonoma County. But our entire staff, our entire board, we're all Indigenous and California Native people. And so we're really unique in that way. It's exciting. But you know, all the people in this room, and definitely Together Bay Area members, are interested in doing what we need to do to make sure that we have healthy environments, healthy waters, and healthy communities into the future. In order to achieve that, you have to go backwards and understand how we got to the place that we are in now. How do we get to these problems, right? How do we create them? And you're going to see then in doing that, that there were decisions, there were mindsets, there were moves and actions that were made from the top down that created some of the climate challenges that we have. And in doing that research, you will inevitably come across Indigenous people and Native people. You will learn about what the removal of Native people has done and continues to do to the ecosystem that we all live in and share today. And so in order to address things like climate change, you have to integrate Indigenous knowledge, the knowledge that was lost and taken from that land in order to you know, impact what's happened or change the future. And the thing is that the state, the federal government, and many of our local communities are understanding that Native partnerships and elevating Native ecological knowledge is an essential part of mitigating the impacts of climate change. There's been a culture shift. And in order to help people like you learn about how they can be a part of that culture shift and how they can build these partnerships in an effective way, we created Right Relations with Annie. And so the program consists of workshops, roundtables where we'll bring in tribal leaders from all over the state who are doing really effective work in mitigating the impacts of climate change, and also go on field trips. And that's the really fun part, where we'll go to field trips to land back sites, so places where tribes have rematriated their ancestral landscape and are now doing things on that land. We went to Sogorea Land Trust last year, which was really fun. And then we went to Sugarloaf Ridge State Park up in Sonoma County here as well. And at the field trips, we will meet with tribal partners, but also the park partners or partners that are in different conservation organizations, and talk about what makes the partnership effective. What were some of the barriers and entry points to creating an effective partnership? And we're really just focused, like I said, on elevating that Native voice, showing what the positive impact on the ecosystem and the community is when Indigenous people are integrated into projects and even leading projects, and how that impacts all of us in a positive way. We are really focused on concrete action. We don't have time to just sit back and learn stories about each other. That's really important. But when it comes to the Native community, we really are ready for people to act in a way that is going to help us heal some of the challenges that our community is facing, including ecological challenges. I'll also add that we have a new section of this program that's launching out in January, which is a Native capacity building program. Because while we are building your capacity to partner with tribal people and communities, we also recognize the need to support the Native community to be able to meet the moment and to integrate those partnerships into their plans as well. So it's a really fun program. We have a lot of good relationship building that comes out of it. We've seen some great grant partnerships come out of it. And, you know, I think that Olivia White Lopez is going to talk to her experience in that next. So I'll pass the mic to you, Olivia, in a moment. But I also just want to plug that we have an info section on session on Right Relations coming up in November. So if you want to join the program, it is like a 9-month commitment. So if you want to join that, come to the info session in November and you can ask questions. We'll go over some of the details and you can see if it's the right fit for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah.
Olivia?
Hi all, so nice to meet you virtually. Welcome to our room. So I'm Olivia White Lopez, she, they, or a pronouns. I'm located currently in Palo Alto, which is where the Peninsula Open Space Trust is based. It's also the land of the Tamian Nation, the Ramaytush Ohlone, and the Mwekma Ohlone. And I was brought into the Together Bay Area family when I joined Post 2 years ago. So I'm their very first director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. My background is not in the environment, so I've had a lot of fun learning curves since joining. And despite my prior work in workforce development and education, to be 100% candid, I did not have a lot of exposure to the incredible work that's happening regionally in supporting tribal groups and gaining greater sovereignty. So I chose to be part of the pilot Right Relations group so that I could really educate myself as an individual and as a person working with a land trust that cares deeply about doing the right thing. It was an incredible experience. Everything Taylor said was absolutely true. The field trips were very interactive. We learned so much from our guest speakers. I also learned so much from my peers. They were really thoughtful in designing an experience and a curriculum where we had opportunities to talk amongst ourselves and really dig deep. And I would say one of the biggest takeaways for me, and I know for the other members of our team that participated, I think there were 4 of us total, was the sovereignty strengthening actions, impactful actions, to really think about a spectrum of engagement, so that you're not just putting out nice fluffy words about that you care and that you want to be of support, but really thinking through the ways you can operationalize in your institutions actions that are in alignment with what your local Native leaders want to see. And in terms, there was another question about moving climate resiliency and social equity forward. And again, I 100% agree with Taylor. You, as a land trust, as an organization that cares about the environment and climate justice, we absolutely need to be in relationship with the local Native stewards of these lands and be bringing back their practices. So I can say for Post, we've done some really exciting work in deepening our relationships, and we're learning so much also about what we need to do to be better partners and better allies and provide capacity where we can to make those efforts as impactful as possible. So I can't recommend it enough. I know my team got a lot out of it. I personally, just as an individual person on the planet, got a lot out of it. And I really recommend that if you have any interest, you go to that info session and learn more.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Taylor. So I don't ditto. I mean, it was a very moving experience for a lot of people, and I'm really glad that Olivia, you were able to share your experience. And I know Olivia Van Dam also chimed in on the chat. She also participated. So thank you both. And thank you, Taylor. In 2022 and 2023, we did a pilot program, and we've secured funding to do another program. And that program will launch will take place in 2024. And for Together Bay Area members, there will be information session, and we'll be sharing that information next week. So heads up for more details on when that's happening and how you can get involved. And thank you both. All right, we're moving now into our 4th and final room on this virtual open house tour. In this room, there is talk of policy. This is our work around advocacy, and our priority is really to secure significant and stable funding. And to give us a tour of this room, really excited to introduce one of our board members and policy committee members, Lisa Baldinger, who will offer a tour, and also Eric Lombardo, who is on our policy committee and has added so much and to the conversation and to the work. So with that, Lisa.
Thank you, Annie. Our room probably has some dated decoration, but Together is working to improve that and create it into a more welcoming space. So my name's Lisa Baldinger. I am employed at the East Bay Regional Park District, but as Annie shared, I'm honored to serve on the board and the policy committee of Together Bay Area. The policy committee is really invested in doing high-level work that connects all of the members of Together Bay Area. So really focusing on that regional lens of what we all have in common, the funding that supports us, the permits that both benefit the work of environmental conservation but maybe can be a challenge to them, as well as just the historic challenges in the policy work at a state level. So on an annual basis, we set policy priorities, and those are guided by the policy committee as well as the board of directors. And these actions really guide the work that we do throughout the year, the work that the staff does, the policy consultant Jess Little does, as well as the members of Together Bay Area in collaboration on the policy program. And so just by way of context, in 2023, we have 3 major priorities that will likely be reflected going forward as well as expanded on. So the first was major investments in equity and climate resiliency. This is core to the mission of Together Bay Area, and so we really strive to activate that through our climate work. And this is looking at potential bond measures and general fund investments and competitive grant programs and guiding funding towards that members can apply for to fulfill the work of their organization. A great example is the State Coastal Conservancy's San Francisco Bay program, which was really initiated in complement to Together Bay Area, and that's one that really has benefited us. So we are often talking about that program as a good source of funding. The second core pillar of 2023 was equity in public funding, and this means reevaluating existing policies, existing programs, and looking for ways that the plans, the rules, and the definitions can be improved to better align with the equity needs of Together Bay Area. We had an intern a few years back who really looked into the disadvantaged communities definition and vulnerable communities definition, and really just seeking to understand how we can create the greatest investments for the greatest needs of our region. And then the third and final sort of pillar of last year's policy program was overcoming challenges to implement. And so this was looking at collaboratively trying to address grant timelines, construction timelines, permitting timelines, habitat nesting season timelines, and many others that are often in conflict. And as we all know, climate and equity investments are needed sooner than later. And so as these challenges sort of compound each other, it's worth addressing and having a conversation about cutting some green tape and making sure that our projects can move forward successfully on a nature-based ecosystem level for the success of our region. And so those are sort of the what's of the work, and then the how's. In terms of the policy committee and engaging with it, the policy committee meets every 2 weeks. So every other Thursday this past year, policy committee members met, exchanged information. It was guided by Jess Little, Together's policy consultant, who facilitated the conversation, but really everyone's bringing their own perspective, their own level of knowledge, and their own questions to the table. We also had 2 Together in Sacramento days, and that's when Together members went to Sacramento, and not only were we able to bond with each other, we also bonded with our delegation, and we shared information about the policy priorities that I went over, but also we just shared information about Together Bay Area, because it's really doing that education with the elected officials is great, because when Together Bay Area sends them a letter, they have then context on who this organization is and who they represent. Together Bay Area also held conversation with assembly members on the proposed climate and natural resources bonds you may have heard of last year. Those will likely be ongoing conversations going into 2024. And then in support of that and as an outcome, the policy committee also generated a project list looking at different projects across the region and how they align with state programs, including Pathways to 30 by 30, Outdoors for All, and other programs that are really of a high priority to Governor Newsom and our delegation. So in terms of who can participate on the Together Policy Committee, it is not all Together members. So nonprofits, tribal, and government agencies are who make up the policy committee. At this time, business members, state and federal agencies cannot participate on the policy committee. So staff is happy to have a discussion with you about sort of why that is, but did want to make that note here. And then in terms of how you can get involved or learn more, on November 9th, we're hosting a policy summit. And so we invite you all to attend to learn a little bit more about the policy program, but also help us set our 2024 policy priorities. If you have questions, you can, of course, email Annie and Laura, but also Jess Little, who's our policy consultant, is a great person to contact with your questions on the policy committee. And whether you sort of commit to those bi-weekly meetings or not, we also welcome you to join us on the Together Sacramento Days in 2024. You don't have to be a policy committee member to join for the Sacramento Days, and so we welcome all. And then I did want to make a note that in terms of who can participate on the policy committee from your organization, it does not have to be a government affairs professional. We welcome all. Actually, we're strengthened by different perspectives and voices joining the table. So if you have somebody who works in the field who's really passionate about policy and curious to learn more, if you have development director, really just anyone is welcome to come and join the conversation, because those are the perspectives that help us lay the foundation for the advocacy. So to share his perspective, I'm now going to pass it to my colleague Eric, who's also on the policy committee with me, to share a little bit about his personal experience. And so, Eric, whenever you're ready.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Awesome overview. Going to take us home here in our last room and share just a little bit about my own experience participating as a Together Bay Area member and kind of advocate for the policy committee. So I'm the grants and public policy manager for the Land Trust of Santa Cruz County. So I've kind of got one foot in grants, one foot in policy in my day-to-day role, and was looking for a place where I can get involved with state level advocacy, found that through Together Bay Area. And I think that the beauty of that for my organization down in Santa Cruz County is we are welcomed into this regional space in the kind of 9+1 arrangement. And that's both a huge benefit for our organization, because we get to participate in Bay Area kind of convenings and regional even grant opportunities and things of that nature. But I think it's increasingly becoming a benefit to Together Bay Area as well, as we take kind of an expansive view of the Bay Area bioregion. We now have the Speaker of the State Assembly and Speaker Rivas in kind of the Central Coast region and that intersection between the Bay Area and the Central Coast. And so it's, I think, becoming a beautiful combination and a really great two-way street. And so for me personally, what being a part of the policy committee has looked like is I came to this job from a different job working on national environmental issues with pretty much no existing or relationships that I'm bringing in with state level leaders, funders, electeds, and the policy committee brought me right to so many amazing opportunities, especially through trips to Sacramento, where we had folks from all kinds. And, for me, never having gone to Sacramento to do a state level advocacy meeting, to folks that have been doing it for 20 years. And I think the policy committee does a fantastic job at welcoming everyone and actually bringing out the best, as Lisa said, of everyone's experiences, whether you're a policy professional or not. And it's kind of the opposite of what I kind of expected, which was a ton of wonk and a ton of nerding out and a ton of acronyms. It's everything that isn't that and everything that's great about inclusive policy, at least from my experience. So those trips to Sacramento have really built me up as a professional, but also has allowed Together Bay Area to show the folks that we're trying to advocate, whether they're an elected official, major funder at State Coastal Conservancy, that we're here, we're a regional advocate working together, and we see common ways that we can all benefit from good policy and good funding outcomes. So I'd also point out that the spring conference was an amazing opportunity to also see some of the same folks from State Coastal Conservancy and other funders there as well. And there's these kind of themes of continuity through the work of Together Bay Area and the policy committee, where we're seeing these faces. Madeline Drake, the new, at least interim Secretary for Biodiversity, was on a conference just this Monday. And so to see the state leaders come and show up to these things, policy committee affiliated or not, I think is super powerful. And I just can't wait to keep contributing and hope that this call encourages a few more folks to come in, whether you're a policy person in your day-to-day or not. So that's all from me. I'm going to leave us from this room, and I think pass it back to Annie or Laura to bring it home.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Lisa. It's really fun to hear your perspectives. I know you both, and it's still really fun to hear your perspectives. So thank you for sharing. I think what we want to do now is share real quickly, kind of now that we're back, metaphorically, if you'll join me kind of back in the foyer, the entry area, now that we've gone through this house, to wrap up with some of the ways that you can get involved. And Laura, do you want to talk about that? You want to share some ways that folks can sign up, get involved?
I do. Thanks, Annie. We have a few events coming up this year. The info session about right relations, Taylor mentioned, and the policy summit, Lisa mentioned, and we have our last Together Tuesday coming up in November. And I wanted to shout out our website where you can always see what's coming up next on the calendar in our website. So you can check there anytime. And our members also get every other Friday emails with announcements, information, and upcoming events. So that's kind of the how. And if you're looking for a more deep dive into your passions and how you can bring those to the coalition, Annie and I are so happy to meet with you anytime. You can email us to set up a time to talk about what you're most excited about and how you can get involved. So please reach out to us. Annie?
Awesome. Thank you. And another way is to become a member if your organization isn't already. And we'll drop in the chat the link to find out more information there. There's lots of ways, and I just want to say thank you again to Taylor, Tom, Olivia, Eric, Lisa, and Olivia. We didn't plan the two Olivias for sharing their perspectives and their stories. And I think we'll pause now and see if there's any questions. And if there's questions, great, we're happy to stay. And if you don't have questions, or if you need to get going, or if you'd like a break before your 12 o'clock, you're welcome to go. But I just want to say thank you to those who spoke, and thank you all for being here and for being a part of Together Bay Area. Any questions from anybody?
Hi, my name is Lawrence. I was just a tad late, so I tuned in when you're talking about the 4 strategic initiative areas that you developed for your 5-year plan, and I missed if you shared an overarching vision for Together Bay Area, and I didn't see it on your website, so just figured I would ask if that's sort of still work in progress or to be announced, or if maybe it's just something that's kind of innate. I don't know.
Sure. Great question. We do have a vision that's really the Bay Area is home to healthy lands, people, and communities, and that humans live in partnership and in harmony with the lands that we're on. And I think the vision is, to say it really concisely, is that the Bay Area is thriving, is healthy and thriving in all the ways that it is or could be. And while we have a lot of great work has happened over the past 100 years to make sure that we have green, healthy spaces, we have a long way to go to really make the Bay Area as healthy as it can be for all of its residents. So I think we're standing on the shoulders of many who have fought over the many years to make sure that we have places like the Marin Headlands, or I name many, many others. And we have a lot more to do, especially around the environmental justice work that there's a lot of wrongs that we need to right. So that's our overall, and the ways we're getting there really through the Healthy Lands, Conservation Lands Network, and that kind of work, through the relationships, and that's both the regional coordination as well as our Right Relations program. And funding is a what and a how. It's a significant amount of work to secure stable and significant funding, but it's also an enabling tool to do that to do the work on the ground. So that's that in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Great question.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Katie Taylor with Mantle Landscape Architecture. I do not have a question for you, but I did just want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing, and thank you for sharing today. I've really gotten a lot out of what you had to say, and I'm familiar with the organization, but I'm excited to hear more, that you shared today about the details of how you do what you do. And I'm definitely going to go do some more Googling after this. So just thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing that.
And thanks for the work that you do too.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments? Well, then I think it's lunchtime, right? That's where we all need to go next. At Together Bay Area, we are pro-human being, in that we need to eat, we need to take care of ourselves, we need to get off of screens every once in a while, we need to move our bodies and get outside. So have a great lunch, have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much for coming, and please reach out to Laura or to me or anyone here if you have any questions.